Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Getting to Know an Opposition Fan, recapping last year and this year. And we've got a good one here. We've got Ben from the Hoops podcast. And obviously, this is the one we all want to hear because this guy is the champion. So, Ben, how are you doing?
Pommy, I'm doing good, mate. I've been looking forward to coming on the show, having a chat with you, talking about the Catters. Yeah, I got nothing to complain about at the moment, mate. It's been a good 22, season 22, and an even better, well, not even better, but a pretty good off season as well. So I'm in a good mood.
Well, I mean, I expect 10 out of 10 on energy levels because there's nothing really bad happening at the Cattery at the moment.
Mate, I'm a Geelong supporter, and we always find the negative, but I'll try and find one or two little negatives if I can.
Well, I mean, last year was sensational, really. I remember at the start of the year, and I had you very high up. I didn't fall into the category as the media did of that you were Dad's army and this was the destruction of the Cats. How did that feel? Because the press hated you in preseason, and you guys just got better and better and better.
Yeah, look, we're pretty used to it, to be honest. Most years, just because the aging list, and it's another year older this year as well. So that didn't surprise me. I had a feeling I was pretty confident that we'd start the year okay, similar to previous years, and we'd really hit our straps around the middle part of the year. Which, if you go back previous years, that's generally where Geelong wins a fair chunk of our games. It was really just that 16 games. Grand final included, just the finishing off the whole year and not dropping a game towards the end. That took me by surprise. I did at the beginning of the year, maybe I was a little bit arrogant, maybe a bit cocky, but I did pick the Cats to win 19 games, and everyone thought I was nuts. We won 18 in the end, and I thought we'd go all the way. But yeah, maybe being a little bit arrogant, but in the end it paid off. So I was happy to tell everyone that would listen. We got that one right. But yeah, look, we're used to it, I suppose. I was copping it the other day as well. Just someone else was like, so you're another year older. I'm like, I quickly started talking about all the trades and all the draft picks. And thank you for pick 7, which turned into pick 8. But yeah, lots of good stuff. Lots of young players coming through. We go again.
They go again. And there's something, I describe you guys, you're ruthlessly efficient in everything you guys do. It doesn't matter whether it's trades, drafts, or in-game. There's a real efficiency, and it's a kind of do not give an F attitude. Yeah. You guys just do what you need to do, make no apologies, and it's scary as an opposition fan, I've got to admit.
It can get a little bit, because we just play this, we did the fundamentals really well, and I can imagine for opposition supporters, it might get a little boring, especially seeing Geelong so successful over such a long period of time as well. When it comes to trading, I think historically, well, at least over 15 years, that Selwood era, we've been very generous at the trade table as well. And I think a lot of people forget that. But guys that can't get a game for our club, we're quite happy to give them away to someone else for pocket change, really. And that's not a disrespectful thing to that player. It's just that, we appreciate that it's pretty hard to get a game. Well, it has been over the last few years to get a game at the Cats, and some of those players end up turning up elsewhere. So we try and facilitate that where we can. And I say we, I'm clearly not involved with the club at all, but the Cats do where they can try and help out. But on the field, pretty ruthless. We don't give an inch, as you saw in the grand final. Had some looked very similar to the 2007 grand final. That one, it's like, you can ease up, boys, and they're like, no, we want to pile on the goals here. It seems to be a Geelong way. So. Probably not the most entertaining grand final unless you're a Geelong supporter. I had a lot of fun, but for everyone else, I'm sure they switched off at halftime or 3/4 time. I don't know. What about you? Did you stay to the end? Did you watch it?
I did, because I am truly fascinated by. You said it was some people might be bored. I think when people run a sporting club well, I think there's something fascinating about just observing it, and kind of turns me on in a way. I look at like Man City in the UK, like how they've just bucked the trend of spending big, and then they've started to really replenish it and start getting bargains. I get excited by that, because I think that's, for me, you're the benchmark. And I think as a Carlton fan, I look at Geelong and think 4 years' time, when our list is 28, 29, I hope we have that recyclability where we can palm off a couple of 30-year-olds, Maybe we
Yeah.
can make a trade investment with some of our kids and bring in some mid-ages and stay that 28 and be destructive. I think it's something to envy.
I think the Carlton list is a lot healthier than it has been in previous years. Usually, it's years gone by. It's like, okay, we're just going to recycle the old guys again and again, and we're going to start again over and over. But I think you're building something. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean a premiership's around the corner. They're pretty hard to win, but just from an outsider looking in, I think your list is looking pretty good. I'd be reasonably happy with it as a Carlton supporter. I think you've got a lot to build on there. I think having Bryon Cook at the club really helps. I think I'm a bit dirty that we lost him, but we've got Steve Hocking. He's doing a pretty good job as well. So yeah, Bryon Cook, he'll do some great things for that club. Did amazing things for us, and didn't do it on his own. But goodness me. He was extremely influential, and I don't think Geelong would be anywhere near where they are today without him being around back in late 90s, early noughties when he arrived from West Coast.
It is one of them things, though. You did mention giving away your players for bargain prices. Carlton do have a horrible habit of always picking up the rubbish cat that's jettisoned. So it was nice to see a good one come in, Cook.
I was going to get to this, but there'll be someone that I'd love to get from Carlton, if you don't mind. TDK, we'll have him in a couple of years if you're willing to give him up for nothing. I'm quite happy to get to Conning down the highway. There's a nice piece of land in Torquay, which I'm happy to give him a few listings on realestate.com if he's keen to have a bit of a look down this way.
That's the big worry for Carlton fans is, Tom, you have got Sam who... That's another thing I think people don't talk enough about, you guys. Your development of players, and we'll come to the draft in a minute, but your ability at taking players, and I remember doing this in the grand final preview, talking about you had so many plus 40 picks on the field that no one talks about it enough. Your ability to target acquisitions of talent, but also develop that talent is phenomenal at Geelong. And how does that go about at Geelong? Because your habit of picking up like Tom Aitken, do you know what I mean? People were saying he was a poor player, and he's an animal.
We noticed him. We went, I think it was a preseason game that we were just sitting there behind the goals, and we're like, who's this player? Never seen him before. And he was getting a fair bit of it and looked pretty lively. We thought, maybe he'll play a couple of games. And just year after year, he's just come on, and he's one of several players like that. And look, to be honest, I don't think you can start from having a bunch of young guys and top draft picks, which has been Carlton's story for probably 20 odd years, and expect them to set the culture, lead the way. I think we've got the benefit of a really good draft during the Stevie J, Gary Ablett Jr. sort of days. We got very lucky. Yeah, we made some good choices in that draft as well. But to be fair, we got very, very lucky in that draft, and we've just use that as a foundation, and we've kept those blokes on. And every young guy, top 30, top 40, top 50 pick, has really just had an opportunity where at a club, maybe without that culture, maybe without those leaders, they would have just in and out the door. It wouldn't have been the same. So I think we've got some good development people there, and I think it's a good culture. I think we're lucky to have some certain individuals that have been going around the Catters for the last 15, 20 years that have really sort of allowed us to do that. It's not always going to be the case, so definitely enjoying it while we can. I am a little bit worried with Joel Selwood going out the door and what that means for the future of the Cats. I think we'll hang on to the top tier for the next few years. But, I think the cliff will come one day. I don't think it's coming this year, but it will come. And, we'll be like a lot of other clubs. We'll just be starting again and having to do it the hard way.
Well, there was a big shift. You mentioned Selwood's going, Higgins went, Dowhouse went, like the elder statesman of that side. But your trade period was a pure delight, wasn't it?
Mate.
What an acquisition you got.
Yeah, Tanner Bruin, Ollie Henry, Swoop Luke. I'm happy to take him off your hands. Thank you very much. Jack Bowes from Gold Coast as well. And then, bit of a couple of a giant. We'll talk to the trade in a sec, but very happy to get the local boys in the Falcons. And that's probably a thing in terms of the trades as well. Not just this year, but previous years. We've always looked for local talent. I guess, it's not just blokes that have grown up in Geelong. It's pretty much anywhere within 100 k's of Geelong, really. Like that connection to the western part of Victoria. There's no other team sort of nearby, really. So anyone that's grown up around Geelong or Cold Lake or Warrnambool or even Ballarat, really, often has a connection to the club or has family down this way. So that the pull to come back is often very strong, and they're not always the best players going around, but we tend to prefer to get them in where we can, whether it's through the draft or through trading, and they tend to just lift 10 or 20% when they get here. It's fantastic, or they're just really dependable, like a Lockie Henderson, who some may have said, oh, he's washed up. He's at a couple of clubs now. He's clearly been at Carlton for a few years as well, and I thought he was really good. He finished up. He's probably due to finish up when the time came. He didn't have the best final series, but he was great for us for while he was here. So and another Falcon. So we love those Falcons, mate. That's why we're really happy to get Jai Clark through the door. Love him. I don't love him yet, but I love all the Falcons anyway.
Well, let's talk about that. I was very critical of that, not from your avenue. I was very critical that no one in the AFL kind of stood in the way in the other teams. I thought the offer was on the table from Gold Coast, and I was thinking... Yeah. It was obvious for me what you guys were going. Jai Clark was a no-brainer, and that was the benefit to you guys. And I was shocked no one tried to stop the best team in the land getting sustainably stronger. And that was a great deal, though, for you, because I think Buzz as well is outside chance of being best 22. Very serviceable footballer in himself, in my opinion.
I think they'll all get an opportunity through the year. I mean, I doubt even some of the more established players at the Cats are going to play 22 games this year. I think we'll double down on our player management or our load management policy. I don't know if it's sort of something that Geelong supporters weren't too excited about or trusted, I would probably fair to say, at the start of last year. And it took really 10 rounds, or 10 or so rounds for us to really start to believe that, okay, it's okay if we rest Tom Stewart. It's all right if we rest Joel Selwood. Danger, all those guys. It's not, and that's not coming off as arrogant. I think that's probably just the nature of the AFL these days, and I think that's where you might see a lot of other clubs starting to take a similar approach. Yeah, you run the risk of leaving yourself open a little bit, but your club's not built on 22 players. We talk a lot about best 22s. I think it's your best 26, 27. So you've got to give everyone an opportunity. Injuries will hit when they do. Yeah, we got pretty lucky last year on the whole. I think first half of the year we were struggling to bring a few blokes back, but second half of the year I think we got really lucky with injuries. So I think your best 27 is the way to go. Look, Tommy, I'm talking like I'm an expert. I'm not an expert at this stuff. I'm just saying it like a fan across the fence, like everybody else. But I've had the benefit of supporting the Cats for a few years and just seeing what works and being really sort of one-eyed about the Catters. And I just think that's just the way to go about it. I think, yeah, I mean, you can. I don't necessarily. I'm a strong believer, and I don't think you build a club through the draft. The best player in the comp will probably turn out to be the 10th best player in the comp when it's all said and done. If you haven't got the supports around them, if they're not in a good culture. I think you're going to get a lot more upside to a pick around the 10 or 20 mark if they're involved in a great club. And look, there's only limited spots in every club, and there'll be players that will cycle in and out of the system. But I just see it so many time and time again. You mentioned Tom Atkins, the Axe, before. He's just another one who's just probably had no right really to be, winning premiership medals and probably finished the year probably one of the top 20 midfielders going around in the comp. Or maybe that's bold. Maybe you don't agree with that. The Geelong supporters absolutely love that bloke and did pretty much from the first half of the year. We just absolutely ignore it. There's probably not many Geelong players. I don't even think we've got a whipping boy. Normally we've got a few whipping boys going around, but I can't think of one at the moment. Used to be Zach Guthrie, but goodness me, we fall in love with that bloke in the last 20 weeks or so. He's one.
It is like you say though that Geelong have that squad depth, and it's something that we talked about on Blue Abroad the other week when we were talking about the fixture list. And I was saying that the model is there from Geelong because you talked about your rotation policy. I always think that if you spend your points early, like Melbourne and Carlton did, and you get them very early wins, I always then worry back half of the year is like where the business is done. And that is the opposite from Geelong. Sometimes you guys are a little bit jittery at the start. It feels like you're fallible. But then once that bye hits, you guys are almost like a different team. And that's why I'm excited we've got you round 2 this year. I think that's a lot better than having you round 14.
Right for the picking.
Yeah, I think you're an easier kettle of fish round 2 than you are round 14. And
Mate,
how do you guys do that? Is that
I
a
don't
deliberate
know.
thing?
I think it might. I think we're not in a hurry. I think we're trying to build for the second half of the year, and not. I mean, you don't want to give up wins necessarily, but the priority is getting the players right and working on the systems. Look, mate, you'll be happy to hear this, and your viewers will probably be happy to hear this as well. I'm actually picking the Blues to knock us off in round 2. I reckon you guys have got a history of maybe not round 1, except for last year, but I think you're looking pretty good to start the year. Whether you hold that form throughout the year, that's a different thing. I think you'll end up beating us in round 2, and I think we'll end up being in similar positions at the end of this season on the ladder. I've got the Catters finishing around that 5 or 6 mark, and I reckon the Blues will be around that mark as well. I mean, they might surprise and just go bonkers this year and snag a top 4 finish or top 2 even. But I think probably just looking at the fixture, and I haven't studied other teams too closely, even though I've gone through all 207 games. But I think that's probably where I'm seeing Carlton at the moment. Where do you have them at the minute? Do you have them around the top 4 or sneaking into the 8? Are you being a bit conservative?
In my opinion, 6 is the baseline for my club. I think we've got to imagine we finished 8th, and I always think it's staggered. So I think 8 to 6 to 4, and then get into that top 4. So yeah, 6 to 4 I've got us. But I'm willing to be surprised. There's always a team that has a run, and I look at our back end of the year, and our run is quite easy. And I think that's where we could make some damage, because a lot of the top sides play each other at that point where we're not.
We'll have to get the Carlton down the highway next. It won't be this year, but when we've got our 40,000 seat stadium, we'll have to get you down there. It's been I know you came down a couple of years ago, didn't you? I think you might have knocked us off at home at one point too during the COVID.
Yeah, it was that Eddie Betts where he chased down the Axe that game, if you remember. You guys came like a freight train when we had that 25-point lead in that final quarter.
Yeah, we were doing that. We did that a fair bit that year. Just giving up leads, and sometimes we'd come over the top of teams, and other times we'd fall short. It was very frustrating. But yeah, this last year we just seemed to just hold them at bay. It was just it was getting a bit silly in the end, especially it just kept building and building. I think a lot of Geelong supporters were really surprised at just how well the season just built upon itself. I couldn't believe it. But no, I'm pretty optimistic about the Blues next year. I think this is the year. I don't think they're going to go all the way. I don't think you can do much damage as a first-year final side finishing in the bottom half of the 8, if that's where you end up finishing. I think if you finish top 4, you might give it a red-hot crack, but it is pretty hard. I think if you're a seasoned team that's played finals 8 years out of 10 or something like that, and you finish in the bottom half of the 8, I reckon you give yourself a good chance, but it is pretty hard. I mean, it's not impossible, but it's, if you're used to playing finals and winning in finals, I think that's I'll give yourself more of an opportunity in those situations. And I think Carlton probably use 2023 as a year where they grow a lot and they get more confident playing with each other, and they learn a lot, and they'll play 1 or 2 finals. But I think that's probably where it'll end. I'll try to be as non-biased as I can. If I'm talking to a Hawthorn YouTube show, I'd be completely different, mate. I can handle Carlton supporters. I just can't handle Hawthorn supporters. I won't hear of it. Anyway.
Well, mate, I would not expect any different from a massive cat. I know you guys are huge rivals. It's like an Essendon to a Carlton fan. So
yeah.
But I mean, obviously, like you were talking about, like, obviously your culture there and going with the Cats, going with the Geelong Falcons boys, and you got the most famous one, didn't you, Jai Clark, who is a phenomenal player, and you also snuck. I thought the untalked one is Phoenix Foster, who is an absolute jet. And we interviewed a lot of South Australians on this show, and he was one of the guys the South Australian draftees mentioned who isn't talked about enough about how good he is. You must have been excited with them pickups.
Yeah. Look, I don't know. Like I was surprised, probably, to be fair, because I didn't know. I hadn't been hearing a lot about him, and I think he was a bit of a late bloomer. I think he might have been an injury in the state squad for South Australia, and he sort of thrown into the ruck and actually did really well. And did a few good things. So, but seems like a Geelong type of person, even though, we know he's from South Australia and all that, but he just seems to fit in well. He's got the right personality type, and just is talking on the club website the other day, cracking jokes about sheep and all this sort of stuff. And I thought, I think we've got a good one there. I think he'll fit in really well and fit in pretty quickly with the boys. Apparently all the new boys are down at a bed and breakfast, or not a bed and breakfast, an Airbnb down on the surf coast at the moment. We're getting to know each other. So we had Oscar Riccardi come on the other day. He's a bit of a rookie pick and son of Mr. Peter Riccardi. So I'm really excited about what he can do. He's probably another one that came on really late and played a game or two. It might have been one game in the VFL, our VFL squad, and did okay. And was guaranteed a spot in our list unless he got picked up elsewhere. So thankfully we got him as well. So we just, how many Falcons did we pick up last year? That was great. We lost.
You also had Ted, didn't you, as well? Ted Closey
Ted
as well.
Closey.
Phenomenal in the back end of the year.
Yeah, and we got a bloke who you may not have heard of. Maybe you have. Oisin Mullen, Mr. Sheen. We got him from Mayo, County Mayo from Ireland. So very excited to see what he can do. That'll be we've got 2 Irish Premiership players on our list, and hopefully we can make it a third at the end of this year.
Should be exciting, that one as well, because that was quite a big one, because I've been looking at Mullin for a while, because he was meant to come last year, wasn't he? He didn't want to quite make the move.
He's a young fella, and you can understand that, and he probably had some unfinished business, and probably, with his club. I don't know. I haven't understand the full story about why he didn't come over, but that would be my suspicion, that, he's maybe got friends and wanted to do some things with his county side, and now it's time to make a move, and then helps when Geelong wins a premiership too. So all these things help, mate.
Right. He's one that I'm keeping an eye on, purely because I think the fact that you came back in for him again and left that door open says that you highly rate him. I think if it was, like some of these experiments we've seen the Pies do, Pies have been obsessed with Americans since Mason Cox, and they haven't quite worked out. It just says to me that you see something in that young fella that we maybe need to worry about.
I think if he gets a game or two, hopefully he plays like half a dozen games or something this year, I think you'll see some amazing things from him. And there'll be some other times where you just scratch your head, like, what has he just done there? And that'll just come over a few years. He'll figure out the game a little bit. He's a bit of a bull though. So if you've seen any footage from his days at Mayo, he's a tough looking bloke. He's very thick through the hips and the legs, and but it's just those little intricacies of the game. Look at him. We'll see how we go over the preseason and the early part of next season in the VFL. What that looks like, but I'm pretty optimistic that we'll see some good things from him. Probably more with an eye to 2024, really. But I'm keen to see what he can deliver. But we've had to farewell some players as well. I mean, some blokes like Quenton Daniels. Hopefully, I don't think he's been picked up elsewhere. I don't think so. But Francis Evans, he's gone to Port, so hopefully he'll be able to extend his career. Cooper Stevens is one I didn't want to get rid of. He's gone to the filth at Hawthorn. Apparently, he's a Hawks supporter, so I was not happy to get rid of him. But you got to give up to get a little bit sometimes, don't you, mate? So unfortunately, he's gone. But your Dalhouses and your Higgins, I mean, they were due. They were good servants for a few years with us, but injuries and age got the better of them in the end. And they were probably our 2 biggest whipping boys last year, and I feel bad about that. And I don't think I wasn't cracking the whip myself, but it's a bit of a shame that's the treatment they got. And it's pretty hard to get into the Geelong side last year, and especially if you're coming back from injury or you've dropped off 5 or 10%. It's not an easy thing, and every club has that a little bit. So, but it is what it is. And we lost Eddie as well. Eddie Betts is gone. We had him; he's one and done. And Harry Taylor's gone. And geez, Eddie Betts, if he gets back into the AFL system at some stage, any club would be crazy not to pick him up. I'm sure you'd love him at Carlton at some point. Some kind of a development role or some kind of assistant coach role.
I was huge last year on Tyson Stengle. I was huge on bringing him in because I thought he was sensational at Adelaide, and I thought his suspension was mind-numbingly bonkers to me. When other players have done similar things and been slapped on the wrist, I didn't like it. But Eddie Betts, what he did with Stengle was unplayable last year, let's be honest.
He started the season really well. I think he kicked 4 goals in his first game, and I was was probably not sold on him. As the one thing I did get wrong last year, was not convinced about Tyson Stengle before the season started, and he turned me around pretty quick though. Just reminds me a lot of the Stevie J transformation in 2007 as well, where he's missed the first 6 weeks of the year. Everyone had written him off, and he just pulls an All-Australian season out of his backside somehow. But Tyson Stengle, different kind of bloke, clearly. Much more introverted in his personality, but so happy for the young fella that he's been able to have this opportunity and make the most of it. And even if we didn't win the premiership, the fact that he's just found himself a home again, and hopefully without Eddie Betts being around, that he's well supported by the team and his friendship group and others as well. So and has a really good career in the hoops. Or I want to keep him free. I'm not giving anyone up. We're not giving anyone up, mate.
Well, for me, it was the story of the year. Tyson was the story of the year. And I've been critical of the AFL. I think that is something we should be pushing. The kid was on the scrap heap this time last year, and he's come back, All-Australian, won a medal. It's a pretty good comeback.
Oh, you couldn't ask for anything else, really. It's amazing his story. And look, there's every club's probably got a story like that where there's a bloke or a couple of blokes that just out of nowhere put it all together. And maybe it's not an All-Australian season, but there's only 22 spots in the All-Australian team. But there's a lot of you do see across all clubs that player that just comes from nowhere or just really for whatever reason something's been holding them back and they just find a way to turn it around. And they're always good stories to see, unless it's Hawthorn, no matter what club you support or what else is going on. I always like to see that sort of stuff. Did I tell you I don't like Hawthorn, mate? I don't like them. Anyway, I'll get over it. 2008 and 1989, I won't get over it.
Mate, we love that rivalry. And I've got to say, Geelong Hawthorn, it's always a game that you look out for. It's always a tightly contested one. Easter Monday, here we go again. They're absolute rabble this year. Anyway, this is a Carlton/Geelong show, so we'll refocus. But I mean, obviously, moving into 2023, what are the expectations for yourself, Ben? What are you looking? Are you going to go back to back? Is that the aim? Is that the ultimate goal?
I'm not going to say that this time around. I think we'll probably just fall short. As much as I was confident last year that we go all the way, I think this year, I think we'll have a lot of belief in the system, whereas the first half of the last year was a bit, I don't know, like we went away from this chip handball sort of possession style footy to, all right, we're going to take it on a little bit more, which Geelong supporters have been screaming out, not that we're experts, but we've been screaming out. We've got 2 Coleman medalists sitting in the forward line. Can we kick it to them, please? But it was just this possession style footy and it was effective. It was winning games in the home and away. It was just rubbish in the finals. So thankfully the boys started to embrace the change, and the coaches had the courage to do it as well. And there was a lot of changes in the coaching ranks throughout the year, over the last off season as well. So there's a lot of new faces, a new system to learn, and thankfully we embraced it. But I think this year, going into the first part of the year, I think there'll be a lot of belief from the players that this system works. I think you find that with every premiership team. Clearly, Melbourne felt that way for the first 11 rounds of last year, until it started to fall apart a little bit. But I think we'll be feeling good about things. I think we've got pretty good depth with all those players that have been brought in, even with a lot of those older guys are another year older. I think, again, we're going to stick with that rotation policy. I think we're going to double down on that. And I can't see us going away from that at all. I think our defensive unit is still going to be very strong. I think we'll probably see a small drop-off, and I don't interpret this as me having a crack at our forward line, but I think there'll be a natural drop-off. I don't think we're going to be at the same high level of season that we had this year from our big three. Well, I suppose you put Tyson Stengle in that big three now as well. I think hopefully he has a similar season, but I suspect he's a beneficiary of how well Geelong were going as well. A lot of those small forwards are, no matter what club you're in. But I think there'll be a slight drop-off from Tommy Hawkins. I think your Jeremy Camerons will pretty much produce the same output. I'm not writing Tommy Hawkins off. I don't think, as a 35-year-old, probably one of the oldest blokes going around in the comp, that you can perform. Even though look at his stats, it's like year after year he's getting better and better. I just think eventually it comes. So I think just a slight drop-off in our forward line. I think the mids will pretty much stay the same. I think there'll be a good rotation going through there, and there'll be some some days where it clicks and there'll be some days where it doesn't. I think that's what happens when you've got some new faces coming through. But I think you just got to have faith in this rotation policy, and remember, you don't win it in round 3 or 4. You win it you give yourself a crack in the first week of the finals, and if you win that, you set yourself up really, really well. So I think that's what our focus has got to be. I'm very, very confident, mate, and hopefully other people start noticing as well. Max Holmes, I'm predicting him to be a top 5 player in the AFL as early as next year. Max Holmes didn't play in the grand final, unfortunately, did the hammy. He's one I picked him last year, and he's just coming on at a rapid rate. So Max Holmes, top 5. Not in the Brownlow necessarily. That's a different kind of system, scoring system. But I think the average person would look at Max Holmes next year. I'll get egg in my face. I'm happy to wear egg in my face on this one, but I'm very, very confident. I'm all in on Max Holmes next year. And I'm feeling pretty good about Tanner Bruin and Zach Guthrie's continued growth as well. I think he's got a bit of belief in himself now as well. I think he was just about on the scrap heap at the end of 2021. And then found something in 2022. I think he found some extra weights in the muscle room. We pick on him a little bit. We have been picking on him because he's just had nothing on him. But all of a sudden, he just started stacking on the weight. We call him Muscles now. He was big baby Guthrie for a little while, but now he's just Muscles. So we love him. So I'm fairly confident about that. But yeah, Gary Rowan's another one in that forward line that's he's always picked on for his inconsistency, but I think he's pretty good for us. I think he'll just start to drop off a little bit as well, and he might be your next Sean Higgins, Luke Dalhouse. That's maybe he doesn't get a game every week like he has been used to years gone by. And I think the fixture doesn't suit us to start the year as well. So I don't think we're going to be that tip top round 9 or 10. I think we'll probably come round 10, we'll be 6 and 4, something like that. And you'll probably get all the naysayers again saying, Geelong's done, they're too old. But I think it's that middle part of the year, and especially the back end when we've got all those games down at Kardinia Park. It's going to be great, mate. When we've got the Sydney game in round 6, we get the banner lifted up. Selwood does his premiership lap. It's going to be the Selwood Festival in round 6, mate. Oh, my goodness me. Do we love that bloke? Maybe he's not loved by other clubs, but down at Geelong, he's a god at Geelong. Probably the most loved Geelong player, not the best ever, but the most loved Geelong player that has ever taken breath on this earth. He's absolute. We cherish that man so much. And I can't wait. I'm assuming, I haven't heard anything from the club yet, but I am assuming they are going to wheel him around in a Ford territory or some kind of ute or something like that. So I think probably the other thing that's a bit of an unknown is just injuries. You just don't know how it's going to go. I think we got pretty lucky last year, if I'm being fair. I think you always got a few injuries, but I think we were probably one of the luckier teams injury wise. So I don't know if that'll be the same case two years in a row, and what that means if we get Danger gets out for a year or Hawkins doesn't get back to around 12, or who knows? But I think that'll be an interesting one. And look, the obvious thing, you win a premiership, you go from being the hunter to the hunted. So you boys are pretty hungry at Carlton. There's a lot of Richmond thinks that they can win another one. Collingwood, they're pretty young and eager. I don't rate Collingwood that much, but and Melbourne probably thinks that they're going to be the next Richmond, and maybe they win a premiership. Something went wrong the year after, and then they win multiple premierships after that. So who knows? So we start again, mate. That's the best thing about another footy season, isn't it? Everyone's got a chance at winning the premiership. It's great.
Well, 18 favourites at the moment because it's the pre-season, as you know what the media is like. And I love the Max Holmes call as well. He's a guy that I agree with you. I think from watching a lot of football last year, he's someone that has really grown into his role. And no Selwood, you've mentioned him. I know he's not loved by every AFL club, but I think you can't argue how talented and what a great captain he's been and leader. And I think Max Holmes going to have that opportunity to shine now with Selwood not there. Someone's got to step up and be the catalyst of you boys, hasn't they? And I think Holmesy will be one of them. He wants to put his hand up for that role. And
Selwood won't be there in round 2 to kick a goal in the fourth quarter again at the 29-minute mark and break your hearts. That was good fun, that one.
It's always good to smile when these players retire. There's been a few of them retire this year that I actually just cry. Robbie Gray is the big one. Yeah. I have to admit, I smiled when Robbie Gray announced his retirement because I was like, I don't have to hear him kick a goal late and destroy Carlton.
No, he's a good player, that Robbie Gray. It'd be good to see Cats and Carlton play in a final again. It's been 28 years or something like that since that
a long time
1995 final. We haven't played a final since then. So it'd be I think we played a Ansett Cup or something like that, didn't we, or whatever it was called back then?
There was. We have had them ceremonial games.
Yeah. But we haven't had a big clash yet. I reckon. I think we'll probably get 80,000 in round 2 as well, which will be interesting to see how many people walk through the door at the MCG. Especially if Carlton and the Cats get a win round 1. That'll be fantastic to fill up the MCG. It'll be fantastic to get along to that. I think was it a Friday night game? I think it was.
Yeah,
from memory.
It's prime time.
Prime time. Yeah. Prime
time Carlton now, baby. Prime time Carlton.
Yeah, no, it's looking forward to it, mate. So, and look, I think like similar years with our fixture too. We've got, we haven't got heaps of games at Kardinia Park. I think there's about 9 games at Kardinia Park, but so I could whinge about that. But the way I look at it is that I think it's in some ways it's an advantage because of who plays us at Kardinia Park. It's all these interstate sides that have to catch a flight to Avalon or Tullamarine or Melbourne Airport, whatever it's called these days. And then have another hour up the highway, and it's usually a cold and wet day at Kardinia Park, and it just seems to be they're just right for the picking every time. If we were playing all the Victorian teams at Kardinia Park, I guarantee you we wouldn't be as successful. So I think it's just the way the AFL likes to do it. We play our big games at the MCG and Marvel Stadium, and we play the other mobs at home. So we're very used to seeing Fremantle and Port Adelaide and Brisbane and all those kind of teams come down to Kardinia Park. I think we get Melbourne this year and maybe the Bulldogs from memory, but that's it. So yeah, love to get you boys down in a year or two. We'll save a couple of seats for you. There might not be many seats available, but we'll save a couple for you.
Mate, we love the challenge, and it's something that I want to see my boys doing. I'm relishing, like you say, you've got the big red fat target on your back. So and I did my fixture preview, and I said that's the game all Carlton fans need the eyes on, because you're the benchmark at the moment. So you want to know where you stack up quite early on from the benchmark.
Yeah, no, look, I'm looking forward to it, mate. And I'm enjoying your content on your show as well. And it's funny because I'm kind of one of those YouTubers that I'm very much one-eyed Geelong, but I do like seeing what the other YouTubers out there, you and Terry, are doing. I think you guys, I don't know how I stumbled upon your stuff. You must have been an episode where you were doing a live show a while back, and I was like, who is this bloke? He's absolutely going bonkers watching a live show, and he's bringing the passion. And then I was flicking over to Blue Abroad and like, Terry, he's just all professional. I'm like, oh, I like a bit of what that. So yeah, I just really, really admire what you boys are doing. Both of your channels, I think it's great, and interacting with a few of the other guys out there as well. It's really, really been an enjoyable thing for me on this channel, and me and Paul, we've been doing this for about 12 months now. We're very early in the game, but having lots of fun. We just love talking about footy. How good is it,
mate?
Especially when you win it.
And you'll notice there's a mass. I've got 2 personalities. There's me watching football and me talking about football, where that's my evil stepbrother. I always say there's a different side of me when I watch the game.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love, and I'm a bit of an asshole when it comes to this, but I do tune into the live stream when the Blues are struggling or it's a close game, and just seeing the stress on your face. It's just, I'm sure it'd be any club that had a live stream, or any YouTuber that had a live stream. I'm sure opposition supporters would be just dialing in just to say that. It's great. It's good content, mate. I really enjoy it. So keep it going.
Mate, my best mate, you'll hate it, is a Hawthorn fan, and he says the best 5 minutes of his life is the last 5 minutes of the Collingwood game, because he says literally see every personality I possess in 5 minutes. You see excitement, depression, silence, and like he said, the last minute is his favourite, because I am evidently don't say a word for 1 minute 12 seconds, and he's like, it's the best 1 minute 12 I've ever seen. The pain in your face, and
absolutely shattered. I don't know, but it was good. You finished off. You got the Brownlow medal with Crippo. That was a fun episode. Watching you and Tez just pumping fists and going nuts. So enjoyed watching that. And I'm very, very confident. Big pick this year. I'm going Sam Walsh, another blue to win a Brownlow medal. I reckon Sam Walsh will get it this year. I think he's the one.
A Falcons boy as well.
the Falcons boy. I think he's pretty settled at Geelong at Carlton though. So I think, and Sam DeConning, I think is a Carlton supporter. Those two boys are Carlton supporters, if I've got that right. So, but yeah, it helps when you win premierships. Keeps them at the club. That'll be great.
It does. It does. Well, I mean, I've really enjoyed this, Ben. You are quality. Mate, and where do the fans watching? Where do we go and find you? The link is in the description, but
I think you
tell them.
No, look, mate, it's me and Paul. We're at. You can check out our show on YouTube. As I said, we just started out about a year ago. We're building. I think we've added about 500 subscribers in the last year, which we're quite happy about, and we just love talking about the Catters. So check us out there. We're on Twitter at the Hoops Show, and you probably find us on Instagram, similar handle as well for that as well. I think Facebook, but we don't have a huge presence on Facebook as well. But we try to get on all the socials where we can, and we're really looking forward to a 2023 and engaging with the fans and other clubs as well, like yourself and the Blues and a few other clubs. Maybe not Hawthorn, but we have a lot of fun with this. It's great.
Well, guys, go and check Ben out, guys and girls. They're a great guy, and honestly, their content is good. And be respectful, as we always are. Be like Uncle Pom, always respectful of the opposition, unless we.
I don't mind. I can take it, mate. Go nuts. Go your hardest. Whatever. It's all good as long as you're watching. I don't know how Paul feels, but I'm happy to take it. I've got a thick skin, so all good. But anyway, yeah, really appreciate you having me on, mate. I've really enjoyed the chat about the footy, and good luck to the Blues. Except for round 2 next year.
Mate, the same to you as well, set round 2, and hopefully we see you in an eliminator on the big stage.
Qualifying final, that'd be great, wouldn't it? First versus fourth, or second versus third. That'd be nice. Don't think it's going to happen.
That's the one, mate. Well, thank you very much. And everyone, go and check Ben out. Cheers, guys.
Go Cats. See you, everyone.